afternoon. This is ATW back with another episode of No Excuse is a Good Excuse podcast. Today we're talking about a subject that really hits home for me. And the subject matter today is going to be how to rebuild confidence after failure. And I want you to think about that again. How to rebuild confidence after failure. It doesn't matter who you are in life, we've all failed. And failure is a part of life. And I think as you get older, you start to learn that failure isn't always bad. Failure can be your road to success if you play it the right way and you learn from said failures. So I want to talk about what's motivated me to talk about that today. Over the last several years, I've been able and been blessed to write several books. My initial book, No Excuse is a Good Excuse, which is really my mantra and the cornerstone of what I've been able to use over the last 20 plus years in business, in my life, and how I operate my AWS life. But I wrote two other books. The second one was called Just Because You're Defeated Doesn't Mean You're Done. Think about that. And the last book comes after that, and that is Admitting Defeat, but what to do next. And I think those are some things that you really have got to understand. I didn't write the two books because I was confused. I wrote the two books because it's true. There's sometimes in life when you are defeated, and that's okay to admit defeat, but you're not done. And the reason I decided to write that book is that I decided after years and years and years in the travel business, where we did extremely well with a private travel club and we used to own a resort. In 2021, the main business partner, after going through COVID and our business totally being like everything else in America, going up and down a roller coaster of emotions, finances, and what have you, he was blessed to sell the resort. And for someone like me who had moved here in 1998 and put my life into the business, there was a sense of defeat after the resort was sold. Don't get me wrong, it was great for the resort to be sold. It was great for the money that we made. But again, it was a chapter that I had focused on for quite a period of time that I thought was going to be the chapter I stayed in until I retired. Earlier in my career, we had a recession in 2008, and from 2008 to 2011, I was able to do a lot of international outsourcing with other businesses as the travel business took a hit during that period of time. And it always allowed me to reinvent myself and figure out new ways to generate income and new ways to make my businesses profitable. But once the resort was sold, it was like, okay, what do I do now? From being a resort owner and an operating partner, it's difficult to go back to being an employee. So that's what I meant about you're defeated, but you're not done. I had a couple of alternatives of what I could do after that period. I had made a great level of income and lived what I felt was a great life. And even though I had been defeated or life had dealt me a hand that I no longer was part of the ownership group for the resort, I knew that I was too young to retire. I still had a lot of great years left, but I wanted to do something that was going to be fulfilling. And I looked at it from a way, like I always do, a standpoint of winning losses. So, okay, we've won the game, we've sold the resort, it's great, but from a career standpoint, you're kind of defeated because there's just not another resort laying around that you can buy and you can pick up and take 20 plus years of infrastructure work, intellectual property, and turn it into a new opportunity. So what it required is what I tell people a lot, oftentimes now, it was a period of observation. It was a period of research. When you start your career over after a divorce, after a layoff, after your business gets closed or sold or what have you, you sit back and you have a period of self-reflection. And during that period of self-reflection, you ask yourself several questions. Okay, what did I like? What didn't I like? How was my work-life balance? And when I went back to look at it, being a resort owner was great, but the work-life balance wasn't really what it could have been. I felt like it might have negatively impacted some personal relationships I had romantically in the past from me working all the time, available 7 days a week around the clock, holidays, what have you. So I was looking for a new opportunity that was going to allow me to earn the same amount of income, and honestly, if not more. Who doesn't want to move ahead and earn more? Every day we live and every year we get older, the cost of living is going up. That's a given. So I wanted to find a new opportunity that would allow me to not only live my current lifestyle, but hey, why not? Let's flourish. I'm a smart guy. There's people out here that I feel that are making more income than me. Let me do some research. So I looked into several different industries, from trucking to different business ventures, from franchise opportunities. I went to several different franchise workshops and conventions and did my due diligence and really figured out what I want to do. Through my process with my own self-development and continuing education and mentorship, I was able to go to a RiseCon conference. And at that conference, I met a gentleman who had a story. It wasn't totally similar, but it was similar in the fact that 5 years prior to that conference, he lived a completely different life as a bartender. And he was introduced to a new industry, the form of health insurance. And that new introduction completely shaped and reshaped his life. And he was living phenomenally at the time. I went to the conference, honestly, to hear several other people speak. Prime Time was supposed to be there, Myron Golden, people that I followed on social media. And I thought the ticket price was affordable. And I decided to go big or go home. And I sat on the front row for guests, directly behind the keynote speakers and the panelists. And the gentleman that I was able to get introduced to at that convention, I never heard of him before. Because again, like most people, we go to an event, we go to a seminar, we go to Comic-Con, we go because Ric Flair is going to be there or somebody that we know is going to be there. And that's what drives us to go to that event. But ultimately, sometimes when you go to these events, you end up hearing a new speaker, he or she speak, and they leave you so motivated, or they just baffle you because you never heard of them, they were never on your radar. And what do we do now? We have the luxury now. Immediately after this guy started speaking, I looked down on my phone and I looked him up. And I was like, okay, this guy's the real deal. This guy's really legit. And his speech motivated me. But again, it's a conference. It's a 3-day conference. You go on with life. You keep going. The next day, I'm at the pool for a after-hours drinks an hors d'oeuvres event for the conference. And this same guy walks up to me and says, hey, I like your shoes. And I say, guess what? I like your jacket. So I jokingly say the bromance started there. And we started talking about what he did. And I asked him some questions on what he did. And ultimately, he asked me what I did. And I told him what I did, what I'd done previously, some of the operations I still owned outside of the contiguous USA, some international outsourcing and call centers that I had owned and operated for years and years and years. And he was like, oh my goodness, this is such a coincidence. That's what I do. And you sound like a guy that I could learn from. But the reality of it is, I would love for you to come to my building and meet me and see what I do outside of this conference. Because you know how it is. Sometimes we go to these conferences and these different events, you get hyped up, the ether's there, the excitement's there, and then you go back home and reality sinks in and it's regular life. So this gentleman was like, hey, I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. And I walked away. I was having a good time. I was there with my god sisters at the conference, and I thought no more of it. Fast forward to the next day, and I've decided to join this program. It was a great program at RiseCon. It was a $25,000 mentorship program that I decided to join for the host that was doing it, and it was filled with a plethora of incentives, and it was just a no-brainer. I had previously joined another program that I spent around $10,000 for, and I don't want to talk bad about it because it wasn't bad. I think I could have gotten more out of it, and it had a great value, but when I was able to go to the second conference and see that they had a $49,000 program that was packaged and it was legitimate $49,000 program, the fact that they would let you get it for half price at this conference, to me was a no-brainer, because it was like, okay, you already bought a used car for $500 and it had a broken window and no AC, and that's when selling you a newer car with AC, all the bells and whistles, and it's only $1,000. To you, you're like, well, I already spent $500 for this lemon. I'm gonna go ahead and spend $1,000 for this better vehicle. So that's what I did. I decided to join that program that Saturday evening, and that Sunday I was really focused on getting indoctrinated and getting set up and started in the process for the new mentorship program. Fast forward, the gentleman that I had met with and talked by the pool the previous night walks up to me and said, hey, I got something for you. This is unprecedented, what we're about to talk about. I was like, go ahead. He was like, my organization that I built from scratch over the last 5 years has been built on a boot camp style program, from a work from within, a promote from within. Everybody that we've talked to that's in management now has come in and worked their way up from the floor. They worked their way up from the beginning. And it's been great, and we still believe in that. But we do believe that in life, sometimes you do meet the exceptions to the rule. And when I told my boss about you, we decided we're going to break our own rule. We want to give you a shot. You're 45 minutes away from us in Lakeland. We're in Tampa. You've got all the intangibles that we look for, and we want you to be a partner. And I was like, really? That's great. I had a 10,000 square foot building in Lakeland, Florida that was kind of vacant and definitely could be utilized and used. And literally like that, within a weekend, I had found the answer to my book. Just because you're defeated does not mean you're done. And it was time for me to embark on a new journey. So within a week, I was able to study, cram, and get my insurance license and life and health insurance. And I was able to, on the start of that following month, go start an aggressive boot camp. That boot camp was from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 8 to 11 p.m. on Wednesday, and 9 to 3 on Saturday. It was aggressive to say the least. And it was built to break you. Luckily for me, this wasn't my first rodeo, as they say, as earlier I mentioned in a previous video, when I was at EDS and I decided to take a risk, like we talked about before, and not play it safe. I decided to join the Systems Engineer program, which was the key program at EDS they were known for. It was their version of the Navy SEALs, or quote-unquote Green Beret, and I had an opportunity to join it from my technical background. However, the caveat was the cushy job that I worked so hard to get over previous years. I had to sign a waiver that if I didn't pass the boot camp, I couldn't go back to that job, because they wanted people that were 100% locked in and focused on not only going into the program, but completing the program and doing well. And again, it's one of those type of calculated risks where, do I want to stay in my comfortable job that I'm in now, in my mid-20s, where I see people that are my peers that are 45 and 50 doing the same job that I'm doing? Probably not. Or do I want to take a risk and get in this program? Because I heard that it was going to be helping to solve the Y2K bug for their biggest client, which is General Motors. So me being the type of person that I am, which is somewhat a gunslinger gambler, it's like, I want to go for it. I want to go big, or I want to go home. So I signed up for it. I went for it, and it helped shape my career. And ultimately, it's what sparked me to move to Ohio. So again, fast forward to the opportunity in Tampa. It was like, okay, I'm going to go big. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go in this boot camp, and I'm going to give it my all. And I went there, and I learned a lot. And it was phenomenal for me to go there and see this operation where all these people were making this great income, and they were doing it in an environment where they were dressed well. It was polished. It was structured. And it was really a well-oiled machine. And for me, I was like, this guy reminds me of myself 20 years ago. But the reality of it, the part of me that had to be humble, was he was doing it bigger and better. And that's the one thing about life, to take it to the next level. You've got to be able to humble yourself. You got to be able to get a coach and or a mentor that's going to help drive you to the next level. And that's what I saw in this gentleman. So long story short, I went there, I stayed there for a better 7 or 8 months. I learned the business inside and out, and I decided to pivot to life insurance. But that is another video. But again, let's get back to what we're talking about as we wrap things up. What you learn from this podcast today, if not anything, I hope, is that just because you're defeated doesn't mean you're done. Just because a job you've been doing for 5 years or 10 years lays you off doesn't mean that you're done. Just because something that you've done for so long is no longer applicable doesn't mean you can't pick yourself up, do the research, and decide where you're going to go next in life. They talk a lot about some people previous in history before I bow out. They talk about, for example, Colonel Sanders and how old he was in life when he really started KFC. And if you do your research, there's a plethora of people that are household names now that didn't hit it big until their late 50s and 60s. So you still got time. You still got the opportunity. All you got to do is change your mindset and realize just because you've been defeated doesn't mean you're done, doesn't mean you're finished. You just got to make sure you keep getting back up and you keep failing until you finally win. So this is an episode today that I want to wrap up and let you know, again, if this episode has helped shape you, move you, motivate you, help you realize that, hey, I'm down right now, but I'm not out, go ahead and click the like, subscribe, or follow button and look forward to the next episode. This is ATW, over and out.